like me, a high achiever with multiple passions, you'll know how hard it is to balance everything. From building a successful career as a software engineer, to balancing a second job as a Pilates instructor, to managing multiple passions like dance and fitness, and having lots of fitness goals, and content creation, and cooking, and eating healthy, and art, and all creative stuff. My life is pretty jam-packed. But juggling all of these while excelling at your career can feel quite overwhelming at times. And I often get asked how I manage it all. If you're someone that has multiple interests and is determined to thrive in your career, this video is for you. I'm sharing the strategies that help me manage it all, and hopefully they'll help you too. First up, let's talk about time blocking and scheduling, because honestly, organization is your best friend when it comes to managing your career or two careers and your multiple passions and interests while still looking after yourself, looking after your body, looking after your mental health, and staying sane. You've got to be able to manage your time effectively if you want to be able to fit everything in without becoming too overwhelmed. What's worked well for me is planning everything out and dedicating time to each specific task. At the start of the week, I already know how many hours I'm teaching. I already know my classes for that week. I already know what social events I might have. I already know when I'm going to gym and when I'm going to train, when I'm going to go to dance, and it is blocked out in my calendar. So there's no excuses when the time comes to it. When you actually block out time for your personal interests, it means that you pay just as much attention to it as you do towards your career. And you really prioritize that without letting it slide and letting your full-time job take over. And don't forget to schedule rest. This is so important, but so easily forgotten. And rest is just as important as everything else for you in order to be your most productive self and most creative self and most everything. If you don't have rest, you can't perform well in the gym, you can't perform well at work, and you'll just find yourself burnt out. So scheduling rest is also so important. And some people might get annoyed at this forward planning. So do what works for you, but spontaneity is not for me. I mean, if someone asked me to do something last minute, my diary's full. You know, you should have asked me last month. Okay, but for real, you can have a little bit of flexibility with it. But if you want to achieve those big goals, and if you have multiple things you need to manage, you need to plan your time effectively and have a schedule and set it out from the get-go. You need to be strict with your time if you want to achieve multiple things. And you need to be really strict with your time if you want to achieve multiple big things. We're high achievers over here. When managing multiple interests with your career, I want you to remember that there's a season for everything. I like to think of life like a set of scales or a seesaw. Realistically, it's unlikely that that seesaw or that set of scales is going to be perfectly balanced the whole time. Sometimes it might lean heavier towards one side if your career demands a bit more or you need to work some extra hours, or maybe then it will shift back towards your personal life if that needs more attention at a certain point of time. And this will constantly be shifting side to side, and that's completely okay. You're never going to be able to balance everything perfectly all the time, every day. I guess the only problem is when you tip so far over one side that the scales touch down on the ground, everything tips over and falls out. That's what we want to avoid. But we're constantly moving between side to side. Maybe things will grab more of our attention one day, and then the next day or the next month, something else will pull us in the other direction. Just focus on what requires your attention right now and honor that, pay attention to that, and just know that things will even out eventually. And one helpful approach is to just regularly assess your priorities and what needs your attention. Each week, figure out what you need to give most of your energy to for that specific week or that specific day, however you want to structure it. And then just constantly reassess this. And then this will help you get that nice work-life balance and balance between everything in your life. I used to feel like I had to do a little bit of everything every single day to achieve full balance, but realistically, that's almost impossible. And what I've come to learn is that balance is not just achieved over one single day, it's achieved over a week or over a month or over several months, and that's okay. If you're spending more time on something today or over this particular week, that's fine. You just need to zoom out and look at the bigger picture and think of balance over a longer period of time. Some weeks may be heavily work focused if you have specific deadlines. Some weeks maybe you want to focus more on your fitness goals, and some weeks maybe it's your family time or other personal things. And this will constantly keep changing and shifting, and that's the way of life. And I think it just really helps relieve any pressure if you have this flexible approach and you have this flexible way of moving between things during your life. Next up, let's talk about stripping things back and being realistic about your time. I can often set some really big, ambitious goals and can sometimes get frustrated if I don't achieve them in that specific time frame. And I think this is really common, especially among a lot of high achievers. And when I talk about stripping things back, I mean we need to really assess our lives and evaluate everything and figure out what are our priorities and what can we remove. There are going to be some sacrifices we have to make. Nothing in life comes free, right? And we always have to sacrifice something to gain in another area. And that's really hard to take in sometimes, because sometimes we want to do everything, but we really have to strip things back and sacrifice certain things. So for me, for example, I have had to sacrifice certain social occasions or certain relationships. Maybe certain relationships aren't adding to your life, or maybe certain energy that you don't want around you or isn't kind of pushing you forward in the way you want. You need to kind of let go of that. And yeah, maybe you might need to miss out on certain things. And I guess you just need to figure out what are your non-negotiables in life and what can you remove. And it can be tough to get rid of some things, but if you really want to achieve certain goals, these tough decisions need to be made. And this doesn't mean cutting ties with everyone or certain people completely, but it's just about thinking where you really want to invest your energy. Learning to say no is another crucial part of this process. And again, it's stripping things back, not agreeing to everything, and just doing things that align with your values and the direction that you want to head in. So really have a deep think about what you want to cut out. Are there maybe people that don't align with your beliefs anymore, or people that are draining your energy, or maybe there are tasks that you have to do or find yourself doing a lot or daily or weekly that you can remove, or find some way of outsourcing it to someone else. Sometimes even small changes can free up a huge amount of mental space and time. Okay, now let's talk about the importance of planning and planning your path to success. It's all about being strategic with your time and efforts. So take a moment to figure out what you need to do in order to get yourself to the goals that you want to achieve. And what actions can you take that will get you to your goals faster? Goals in your career and in your personal life and in your hobbies. And what I found is setting mini deadlines can be a game changer. So having in your mind what you need to achieve in certain time frames, and keep setting little mini milestones to keep completing and keep ticking off as you go along. So break down those bigger goals into smaller little incremental goals, and then this keeps you accountable to those things, and you have something that you can look back on as well and celebrate those small little wins along the journey. And having these mini goals, these mini milestones to work towards, it keeps you focused and also gives you a sense of urgency to help you complete things and get to where you want to be faster. And as you achieve each of those little mini goals, it can be so motivating and so encouraging to yourself. So it's something I really recommend. But also remember that the whole journey is important, right? And it's not just that final goal, the final achievement. It's all of those small wins along the way, no matter how big or small. So I think it's a really nice idea just to celebrate each small win, and then this will help keep pushing you forwards. Now, my next piece of advice is to maximize your learning at work in your day job. Now, if you're a software engineer, I think you can agree that you are always learning at work, always learning. So I want you to, instead of thinking about the amount of hours you worked and the amount of time you have to put into your 9 to 5, I want you to flip the narrative and think of how much you can gain from your 9 to 5. You are essentially being paid to learn. How cool is that? So embrace this mindset and actively seek out different learning opportunities at work. See if you can work on different projects that sound interesting or something that's going to push you and help you learn more. Maybe you want to have different conversations with people that are more senior in different parts of the business. Just really reach out, expand your network, and you never know where connections are going to come in handy for your future career or anything in life. The most random connections can happen from anyone, and I really believe there's something valuable to learn from everyone. And also, if you have any quiet moments in your day or those little pockets of time, use this to your advantage. Use this to do extra self-development work or extra reading up on things. And don't let those little pockets of time go to waste. Use your 9 to 5 to your advantage. And the more you invest in your 9 to 5, in your time during work to expand on your learning and improve and progress, the more equipped you'll be to balance everything else outside of work. So really take full advantage of what your job has to offer. So linking back to my first point about time management and scheduling and organisation, we need to be able to set boundaries, and we need to be good at setting boundaries and sticking to those boundaries. So setting boundaries is essential if you want to maintain that healthy balance between everything. I think it's a good idea to have in your head when you want to log off work by and stick to that. Again, have flexibility around this because sometimes it's not always possible. But if we also want to prioritize our passions and our side projects, we need to also make time for that. So we need to make it our priority to log off at a reasonable hour. And we don't want to overwork ourselves, right? We can't overwork ourselves and put in all the hours into every different aspect of our life because we will just burn out. So we need to make sure that at that specified time, we are completely logging off. And we're not going to check our emails. We're not going to have our work emails on our personal phone. And we're not going to keep checking Teams. We need to fully switch off and move on to the next thing. And just remember that working more hours doesn't make you more productive. It can actually be counterproductive, especially in the long run. So give yourself permission to step away from your desk, step away from your work laptop, and get on with other things. And once you step away from the laptop, step away from the phone and completely shut it off, this can help get you in the mindset for something new and help you focus on something else without that constant pull of work in the back of your mind. Now, my last point is a super important one, and that is I want you to enjoy the process of having multiple passions. Embrace the joy that comes with having multiple passions. And sometimes I think it's really easy to get caught up in the idea of thinking that you'd be a master of that one thing, or you'd be super skilled, or you'd be so much better if you just focused all your energy into one thing. And this is something I'm trying to learn and always trying to argue in my mind, because I know that I could be amazing at just one thing if I dropped everything else for it. But really, I don't think I'd be fulfilled doing just one thing. I think there's so much joy that comes from doing multiple things across multiple different aspects of your life. And there's so much you can learn from doing so many different things. And each hobby, each interest, and each different aspect of my life brings so many new things into my life. It helps me meet so many new people from all different walks of life. And that's something I don't want to remove. Plus, research suggests that engaging in loads of different activities and different types of activities stimulates different parts of your brain and helps you learn in different ways, enhancing different things like creativity and problem solving. And I just think that's really cool. So if you're like me and you're also toying with this idea of whether to give up everything for that one thing to become a master or stay as this jack of all trades, then I want you to really just embrace it all, and let's move through all of these together and just celebrate the diversity in our lives. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed. I hope this video gave you some tips and advice on how you can balance a successful career alongside your multiple passions or anything else you have going on in your lives. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a like, subscribe, and hopefully see you next time.